Good evening and welcome to Triple Tap. And I just realized you guys couldn't even see the video, could you? Because we were just testing it before with our guest on, and I'd stopped sharing. So, but at least you got to hear it. So welcome to Triple Tap. Let's see if our guests are on the ball tonight. If you're listening, you can participate in the chat, make it interactive because we've got a great night coming up. Guys, do you know what number Triple Tap we are up to? If you know, pop it into the chat. I'm feeling excited tonight. We've got an amazing guest for you. Let's see how awake you are. I'm wearing my Lawful Rebellion Clause 61 t-shirt tonight because I'm feeling like a little bit of a rebel. I have just finished all these. Yep, Kent's got his tap t-shirt on there. Excellent, with his logo on it on the front and the back. But I want to know, see if you guys are awake as well. Does anyone know? If you do, pop it in the chat. What is Clause 61? Some of you know, some of you don't. And if you don't, I'm going to give you a really quick lesson before we get started tonight. I wanted to give you the exact definition. We'll see if anyone's going to pop it in the chat. Yeah? Clause
61 from where? From what?
That's what I want you to know. Do you know what it
is? Clause 61 from my insurance contract is about flood.
Lawful Rebellion.
Was that Santa Claus?
See if anyone's chatting on Sue. I think they can chat in the chat box. Yes, they can put it in the chat box, but nobody's responding at the moment. They must all be asleep. I'm going to tell you that Lawful Rebellion, I found a little article on it before I give you the legal definition, is that we have a right to enter into lawful rebellion if we feel we are being governed unjustly. Contrary to common belief, our sovereign and her government, maybe we should say now his government, are only there to govern us and not to rule us. And this must be done within the constraints of our common law and the freedoms asserted to us by such law. Nothing can become law in this country if it falls outside of this simple constraint. Article 61 shows quite clearly who really holds the power in this country. That being quite simply us, the people. We have sovereignty, not any parliament, and nor can this be taken from us by any parliament who claim to have taken the people's sovereignty. Does anybody know? I see Betty, you are the first person. It is the Magna Carta. Let me just give you the quick definition before we get underway tonight. When I looked up the Magna Carta so that I could give you the exact definition, the Magna Carta, also called the Magna Charta, was the Great Charter of Liberties signed by King John in 2015. Hence, any basic principle or document, especially one conferring or implying our liberties. It's also known as the Bill of Rights. So when I went across to what the Bill of Rights were, I've just got one little paragraph I want to clarify for you. A couple of acts people might want to look up. And that is a statement of human rights protections and guarantees, usually constituted in national law or proposed as such. These normally consist of civil and political rights and often draw from the International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights in 1966. They may be part of the Constitution or legislated as statute, sometimes having superior status in the event of conflict with other statutory provisions. In Australia, though, there is no Bill of Rights, although over recent decades there has been attempts at the federal level to introduce one. There are two statutory Bills of Rights in Australia, and that is the Human Rights Act 2004 and the Charter of Human Rights and Responsibilities Act 2006. So there you go. That is the Magna Carta, Lawful Rebellion. It's been feeling a bit rebellious this week since I've been doing my legal case, which I finally got submitted today. And I do know some of those are in there, including the Magna Carta. So I thought it quite appropriate that I wear my shirt tonight and do a little bit of Magna Carta teaching. So I hope you guys enjoyed that.
Our government would never introduce a Bill of Rights. They're too busy introducing Bill of Wrongs.
Exactly. So now that I've had my little say on being a lawful rebellion, how have you guys been this week? Because you guys have been super busy. I've hardly spoken to you. I know, Lance, you've been busy with presentations up there in Queensland with Kim for quite a bit, haven't you? How did they go?
Yeah, it was an incredible week. Busy but rewarding. There's so many awesome people out there. Just to spend time with them it's a real privilege. And I couldn't think of anything else I'd rather do than spend time with good people. So really looking forward to David being on the show tonight, and I reckon we get into it.
Excellent. Just quickly, what about you, Ken? Have you had a good week?
Huge week. Went up to Gayndah and to a town just outside of Cherbourg. I've met with a beautiful, beautiful lady called Anita. She's a senior woman with the Waka Waka Nation. I've been learning about the Gympie Pyramid. Anita Dodd is a fantastic woman. She is highly disciplined, well-educated, hardworking. She is totally excited about duplicating what has been done with the Githable Ngarakbal Yokum Yokum along wants to duplicate that for the Waka Waka Nation. Look, it's all coming together. I also spent one night with Lance and Kim delivering the information about the new banking system and the chance to invest in that. And I have now officially been spoken to just this evening by a random stranger at the pub who recognised me and asked me about that and cannot wait to invest in it. How cool is that?
Oh, super, super cool. And we can't wait to share that with the rest of everybody when the video is finished, the final version is finished, that we can share with everyone, and maybe even one day play it on one of our Triple Tap episodes. What do you think? We'll be able to do that?
Look, I don't like watching my videos. So it spoils the magic for me. But yeah, if other people want to watch it, I'm happy for that.
Excellent. All right. Well, speaking.
Hey, I'll just quickly plug this T-shirt, this TAP T-shirt. If anyone wants one, we don't make any money out of them. But if you want a TAP T-shirt, you bet. Unite, Inspire, Create. They're fantastic cotton tees. I got this. What color is this one? Did you say this one was pistachio?
I think that's pistachio. Yeah, I think that one looks like pistachio. It looks a little bit white on the screen.
It comes out when you get it. This one's a pine lime, and it looks like the old pine lime ice blocks. But,
nice.
Yeah, I love it. I've bought 2 of them. I'm going to buy some more. And
excellent.
Yeah, cool.
And I know there's men's and ladies ones, and a few different range of colours. I know I've got a burgundy one, which I look like the Queensland rugby team, but all good. Yep. Excellent. Well, speaking of professional people, we're about to introduce our guest speaker for tonight. His name is Dr. David Nixon, and he graduated from Otago University 30 years ago. 25 years in general practice, both in New Zealand and in Australia, and he's written several papers and reports on the management of long-term conditions in primary care with a focus on diabetes, heart disease, and cardiovascular risk management. Dr. Nixon has worked in Brisbane for the last 12 years and is currently working under supervision restrictions from APRA due to the serious public health risk posed by the writing of the COVID-19 vaccination exemptions. He's currently learning to use dark field microscope and to check people's blood for abnormalities. And he's been involved with the international team of doctors and researchers working in this area. I know he's got a fascinating video that he's going to share with us tonight. So ladies and gentlemen, I hope you're hanging on to your seats, because I'd love to introduce, without further ado, Dr. Dixon to the call. If you're there, David, turn on your camera and let's get chatting. There you are. Welcome to the call.
Good evening. Hi, Ainsley. Hi, Lance. Hi, Kent.
Hey.
Good to see you, mate. I love your background.
Yes.
Yeah. I love your background, and I know what it is, mate. It's. I think it's about time you and I caught up for another coffee too. By the way.
Definitely. We'll look forward to it.
I'll make the effort and get to where you are. Hey, Yeah, absolutely. I'll make the effort and get to where you are, mate. Hey, I understand you've got a bit of a video that you want to show us.
Yes, let's show that first. I'll just screen share.
And ladies and gentlemen, if you're listening to this video and the sound's a little bit low at your end, we do ask that you please turn up your speakers so that you can hear it, because we do know we've tested it, and David has got his speaker on this full bore. So please just turn up your speakers and let's get underway.
Okay.
What else are they hiding in the vaccines? Dark field microscopy, COVID-19 mRNA vaccine. industrial revolution looks like. Dark field microscopy by Dr. David Nixon. DrDavidNixon.com.
Right. It's quite a lot to process there.
That
David,
is
how super cool is that?
Yeah,
That you can see the International Space Station in people's blood.
I got blown away by the, like, where there's two circuits sitting there, and then there's the big bright, like a snake going between them, as if it's like a power source going between them or something. I mean, we're only looking at imagery and comparing it to pictures of things that we've got in our past experience. But so help us understand this a bit better, Dave. What is dark field microscopy?
Okay, it's a form of optical microscopy that involves a special condenser. So it's just a matter of changing the condenser underneath the microscope stage to turn an ordinary optical microscope that we used to seeing at school and like in normal laboratory into a dark field microscope. And a dark field condenser focuses the light into a cone, and that allows for increased diffraction, so we get a lot more contrast and color in the picture.
And that will help you see what's inside a vaccine, because everything we saw is what's inside the vaccines, isn't it?
Correct. So everything in that clip is from the Pfizer vaccine. Yeah.
From the Pfizer vaccine.
Yeah. So
What else?
whoops. So this is what we see when we look down a microscope at the Pfizer vaccine. So there's a lot of sparkling and what appears to be metallic things in the background.
Is there, I mean, I know the answer to this, but is there any health reason that we should know about that this could help us with? Is this good for us in any way, in your experience?
Well, we don't know what it is, so I can't answer that question. And as most people know by now, Pfizer have redacted and kept secret quite a lot of the ingredients in the injectables, so we don't know what they are. There have been researchers who have reassured us that what we're looking at here is cholesterol shards, and appearances that could be expected, but
That structure's not.
that structure is not, and that structure's common. So this particular video, I had a colleague from overseas, and I was just showing him what was in the vaccine life, and we came across this one. So it's just, this wasn't a particularly special structure.
No.
But they do tend to get larger over time. And a lot of the pictures that are available from overseas are similar structures, but they're often looking at the vaccine underneath the cover slip. A cover slip is a thin bit of glass that sits on top of the liquid. Whereas what I'm doing here is just looking at the liquid without a cover slip and allowing it to dry out.
Okay, so what's the movement coming from? Oh, look at that.
So the movement is just coming as the liquid moves towards the edge and dries out.
Okay. Yep.
So this is a drop of the vaccine that I've allowed to dry out overnight.
Okay.
Okay, so what I've been reporting on for several months now is the appearance of these structures that appear in the periphery of the drop.
They're quite large. I mean, if that's just a single drop, these structures, like, look at them.
So this is only 40 times magnification, so they're not small.
There's
And
little stick things in there, David. What are they? Like, I can see a couple of, if I look closer, like there's one that runs up and down across that white one. No, you do up and down.
So those that are crystal structures that appear as well. I have spoken about those previously, but they're not as interesting as some of the other things I've got to talk about tonight. But my suspicion is that these structures actually appear from these crystalline structures. That's part of the process of their formation.
Now, sorry, mate, keep going.
I was just going to say, I've done this 30, 40 times, and I've grown lots of crystals. So if anybody, wants to say that this can't be happening, I'm happy to do a private Zoom, and I'm just trying to figure out what I'm going to charge for that. Perhaps we can talk about that over at coffee later.
That sounds like a top idea.
So in the past, I've shown quite a lot of the crystal, these structures that have been really quite complex. Most of them aren't. Most of them are more like this. But even this crystal doesn't look natural when you look at the structure in the middle.
They're right angles.
And the right angle. Well, we do see right angles in crystals, but I haven't come across any crystals that look like this. I'm not a crystal expert, but some of them are really quite strange.
So just for our listeners who've just joined us, just so if anyone's just jumped on and joined us, these are crystals inside the Pfizer vaccine that you're looking at under a microscope. Is that correct? If I've understood you correctly, yeah.
Yeah. So it's under a dark field microscope. This image is probably 100 times magnification. It could be slightly more than that.
I can't believe it's such a low magnification. I was thinking that people would have to, investigators would have to get, to 10,000 times or maybe even 50,000 times, or like, way down. But you're only talking about 100 times magnification, 40 times magnification.
But this is school microscope level.
Wow.
Magnification. It's nothing dramatic.
Are these crystals dangerous to people, Dr. Nixon?
Well, I got absolutely no idea what they're made of. I don't know whether they actually even occur inside people. I just know that I can consistently produce these crystals on top of a glass slide from a drop of the Pfizer vaccine.
So if you're seeing these under a microscope from the drop of a Pfizer vaccine, and the Pfizer vaccine's gone into people, this would then be going into them. Can they detox from these crystals? Do you know?
Well, as I said, Ainsley, I'm not sure. I've got no evidence that these crystals are forming in people, but certainly there are a number of things that products and things that people can try for detoxing, and I'm certainly aware that there's a large number of people that are trying to figure out the most effective and the most cost-effective way of doing it.
And so you're working with those people to try and work out a solution for this.
Yeah, I'm working with a small group of people that are focused on that, but there are certainly a number of other groups as well.
Yeah, there certainly is. Now, I know that you have conducted some experiments with the vaccine inside a Faraday cage. Now, a Faraday cage is a device that stops any electromagnetic radiation like microwaves or cell tower, mobile phone waves, things like that. It stops them from reaching inside of the Faraday cage. And am I correct in when I remember it this way that the crystals don't develop?
Yeah, so that's basically right, Kent. I've done a few very low-key experiments using a Faraday bag, which is the type of bag you can get to put your mobile phone in if you're at a meeting or something. And I hope to repeat those experiments with more trials and in a more rigorous way soon. But other people have done similar experiments and shown the same thing overseas. I actually got the idea of doing that from Matt Taylor, who's an engineer who appeared on the Stu Peters show, and he spoke about how he's actually got videos of crystals getting bigger and smaller depending on their exposure to Wi-Fi. So from what I've done, it seems to be the Wi-Fi router that produced the frequency that was responsible for these crystals being produced. So on one night when the Wi-Fi router wasn't working, I wasn't able to produce any crystals at all. And on 3 or 4 other trials that I did, I had one side on my microscope and the other side slide inside the bag. And the slides inside the bag didn't grow anything.
Dr. Nixon, one of the questions we've got from, Lance, just from one of our listeners is, are these crystals 3-dimensional or are they flat?
Well, that's a good question. When I compare them to there are some other larger crystals that appear at the same time, and they're much more obviously 3D. So I suspect these are relatively flat, but they do appear to have some third dimension to them. They look really solid, but they dissolve very easily. So if for example, I've done it quite a few times. If I was to add a drop of vaccine over the side here, this structure would just melt away. Even though it looks quite solid, it's not substantial.
Right.
So yeah. I mean, I haven't actually tried, but I suspect it will melt away with saline as well. I'll do that at some stage in the near future. But it certainly melts away if you put vaccine on top of it.
Wow, I don't even know what to say or where to go. These are certainly the most complex and clearest photographs I've seen of what's inside the vaccine. I mean, and that crystal is only at 100 times magnification. If you magnify,
there's some far more exciting stuff to come, Kent.
Right, yeah, really? Okay. So
I just put these in as a bit of a taster. Right.
You're muted if you want to ask a question. Cool.
For some reason, it's not advancing. Why is that? Right. What do I believe? So I believe that technology can be seen in the Pfizer COVID-19 injectables, and from my observation, there appears to be a deconstruction process, construction process, a consolidation and testing process, and some interesting new things to discuss tonight that I've put together in the last week. We've got these blue glowing donuts that are quite exciting. I've got quite a focus on the microbots, which we can look at, and some black spheres, which turned up last night, which are also quite exciting. So without any further ado, if I can get this to progress. So the exciting thing is actually not those crystals, Kent, it's these things. So these are what the crystals turn into. So if you remember, the crystals are around the outside, but if I leave this drop of vaccine in a cool place, it'll come back in a day or two or 3 or 4. The first time I observed this was after 10 weeks, but I suspect it's actually happening a lot quicker than that. And each one of these is very much a chip-like structure. And I've got
what sort of structure?
like a microchip. And I've got hundreds of photos of these. So they look, I'll go close in, they look like that. Now that's a more scary thing to find in the vaccine. I'm sure you'll agree.
Mm.
Wow. I'm dumbfounded. It almost looks like some sort of power source in the center of it. But I mean, that's reflecting light, isn't it?
Well, it's an interesting question, Kent. And so that was what I set out to look at this week. So I'm glad you asked that question.
Looks like a microchip.
Right.
Looks like a microchip. Sorry.
It looks like a microchip, and whether it's serving some basic function as an antenna or an amplifier or receiver, no idea. But it definitely looks like highly sophisticated technology. And I think if we're going to get our heads around what's going on here, we need to look at this and see, right, rather than saying it's obviously natural because we don't understand what the technology is. We need to look at it squarely and say, that looks weird. We need to get to grips with that. So I took a personal paradigm shift with this a few weeks ago when I stopped saying to myself, could it be, couldn't it be technology? And I said, right, I know what I've seen. I think this is advanced technology. What else can I learn from this? And so I've been picking up on different features. And one of the key things I've been looking at, as you identified, Lance, is this central glow thing and also these smaller ones around the outside. When I initially saw these, I assumed the light was actually coming from behind. But as I'll show, I don't think that's the case anymore. Sorry, I'm having trouble advancing it. So that's a small one, again with the central glowing thing with the blue tinge. They've all got a blue hue. Whether that's refraction because of the size or the shape, I don't know. I'm just saying, I do know that cesium-137 has a blue glow. I'm just saying. This one's interesting. I don't get many of this shape. They're usually more of a closer to a square than that. This one, I haven't seen one like this previously. This definitely looks like a chip, don't you reckon?
Yeah.
That looks like I'm coming in from the airport and I'm looking at a streetscape.
Yeah. But it's just salt or cholesterol, right? So once I'm over that, it's definitely, you've got to think, well, what is it? It's got to be some sort of advanced tech. The other thing I've been looking at is these things that are appearing in the background, often associated with these chips, especially with the more complex ones. These are very similar to what was left of the microbot after the construction process that was in the video. I'll come on to that shortly. I put this one in because it's different from all the others, different colors.
Dr. Nixon, do
Yeah,
you
there's
think
like-
these what you're seeing, and you said because it looks like a chip and all that, I've seen videos in the past where people who have been vaxxed were like almost like they were Bluetooth, and TVs were turning on when they went near them, and their phones and things like that, because it was sort of like reacting with the Bluetooth. Do you think it's got something to do with that? What they're putting in, because they want to collect data from us and all that sort of stuff? Do you think it's got anything to do with that?
You know, I really want to stay away from conjecture as much as I can. But clearly somebody's gone to a lot of trouble to construct this. And there must be some sort of big reason. And I also think they've gone to a lot of trouble to hide it as well. And I'll go into that in a little bit more detail. So this was one of the drops, and you can see all the chips. This was
mackerel.
Wow.
this was a drop that I put on a slide on the anniversary of my dad's death, which was the 4th of August. And I looked at it after 10 weeks. Just move the pictures. And this was a little bit like building, you know, a Lego castle. And then all of a sudden, everything disappeared. So, for some reason, I triggered the self-destruct process. So I went from having all these really interesting chips. I think I photographed all of them before this happened. And then the next morning, they were all gone. It's like, what? So I took a photo stitch picture of the drop again, and before it got to the end, this lattice was forming, and within 20 minutes the whole thing had been covered in this lattice. Now there is some suspicion that this is the hydrogel that's referred to. I've got no way of knowing whether that's the case or not, but it's a very strange process. I've got some videos of it forming. Perhaps next time we can have a look at that. But as you can see, the deconstruction process didn't get everything. There was 3 crystals there, and there was a couple more further over. I've included this one because this is a simpler video of the deconstruction process. I've got a couple, but they're actually quite complicated to watch. So with this one, this central square slowly gets smaller and disappears, and this one also disappears. These black things are the bots. You can see this sphere showing up here.
Doctor, we have another question from our audience. Is there a particular frequency that seems to have the most effect on the structures?
That's a good question, and that's one of the things I'm going to be looking at in the next couple of weeks, try and figure that out. But certainly it seems to be related to intensity. Certainly the Wi-Fi routers, the cheaper ones that produce a lot of extraneous noise, seem to have more effect on the crystal formation. Whether that's a bad thing or not, I'm not sure, but probably not a good thing. It's interesting to note that when this particular bot was active, the black has got a very clear spherical shape. Now I've only just noticed that now, and same with all 4 of these. They are uniformly spherical. That's interesting, and I'll come back to that shortly. So what's going on? I don't know, but it's pretty weird, right? It's like this.
I'm impressed that it's like this vaccine has been left to dry for 10 weeks. Like it's dry. It's bone dry.
It never. It's a good question, Kent. It never actually dries out. The gel, the hydrogel or whatever it is. I mean, obviously there's hydrogel in there. We know that. But whatever the composition of this material is, it never dries out completely. It's always like a bit of a jelly. It's always a gel.
Wow. So left to the open air,
Yeah.
it never dries out.
No.
Well,
Yeah,
it could
right.
be hydroscopic. So that would answer that question. But if you tried to mechanically dry it,
I haven't done that. So what you're suggesting, Lance, is I should borrow my wife's hairdryer. As you can see, I haven't got any need for one. Hey, you shouldn't laugh that loud, Kent. It might happen to you one day.
Oh, look, take a look. It's creeping in there, mate. It's creeping in there.
I'm thinking it would be interesting to observe these, how they react in a vacuum, because, you know, you boil off your moisture in a vacuum. So it'd be interesting to see if they were still active once the moisture had been,
I'm actually taking donations for the lab, Lance. I'll get some prices on those vacuum units and I'll get back to you.
Yeah, no problem.
One of the listeners said a good dehydrator might help.
I think even dehydrated still has pretty good moisture content.
So the other amazing thing about this process, and this blows me away every time I think about it. What I've showed you here is not real time.
Yeah.
So this is sped up 400 times. So in real time, you can't actually see anything happening. It's happening so slowly. So this speed is 400 times what actually happened. So this video here was just under 7 hours sped up. So 400 times is, I think I worked it out, it's like compressing a week into 28 minutes. Somebody
I've had a few weeks like that. I tell you, no matter what this stuff is, I don't want it going through my capillaries and through my brain, through my vital organs. As you're well aware, when my wife got sick with so-called COVID, whatever that is, I kissed her straight on the lips and we got sick together. And I've also shared with you, David, that we went and had our blood tested by our GP, which is just a bulk bill, and the SNN proteins that they can check on to see if you've got antibodies for COVID suggested that we would have at least 5 years protection against COVID, with the possible up to 15 years protection against COVID because we got it naturally. So I'm quite happy to take it to get a natural immunity to it, rather than cop doses of what we're seeing here.
Yeah, I mean, there's all sorts of reasons why the vaccines aren't a good idea. But clearly, at the very least, this is contamination and we should stop the vaccination program immediately.
Right.
David, can you put a size to these squares that we're seeing, like in comparison to, say, a capillary in your brain? Would this fit in a capillary or would it be too large?
It would be too large for a capillary, for sure.
Right.
Yeah. So
wow.
This is probably about 3 or 4 red blood cells across, I would think.
Yeah.
Most capillaries are only 1 red blood cell. So this was my initial chip collection. and whoops, and it all disappeared, and this little lettuce grew really fast. So, being a good Boy Scout, what am I supposed to do? But I put another drop of vaccine at the bottom here, thinking, oh, I hope it'll grow me some more interesting photos. And boom, it grew even more. So,
Wow.
I think.
So do you think that would be
Well,
like
then,
someone
yeah.
having 1 shot, 2 shots, 3 shots? So the more they're having, the more they're putting in their body, the more it's growing?
I can't even make that comment, Ainsley. But definitely there is a concentration element here, and we definitely know that there are agencies within our government that are keen for people to have as many shots as possible. So clearly, the less you have, the better. Yeah, the less you have, the better, and the faster we screen everybody who's been vaccinated for problems, and the sooner we institute sensible options to improve their chance of having a coagulation problem, the better. But whilst we're spending all our breath talking about the vaccination program, we're not moving on to those things.
Mm.
So this is the crop of structures that actually grew above the ribbon. As you can see, they're pretty plentiful. The other thing that's plentiful is there's lots of these glowing dots, more than I had the last time.
Mm.
So this is another edit of this video. I'm quite happy to show it again because it really is quite startling. Or shall we leave that and just put it on the end of the next one? How are we going for time, Ainsley?
Yeah, we've got another 15 minutes. Just got another question for you. What we are seeing is in a drop of vaccine. Has David taken a look at the blood samples of a vaccinated person?
Yes.
Yeah, so this is from a vaccinated person? Yeah.
This is all vaccine related. Certainly we can have a discussion at some stage about the findings in the blood as well, but that's quite a long conversation too. But certainly this type of appearance of this ribbon that we see down here, this is exactly the same size, exactly the same appearance as the structures that we're seeing in the blood.
Wow.
Yeah, so we're seeing a lot of these ribbon type structures in people that have been vaccinated, but also people that are unvaccinated, and it's not clear where that's coming from, whether it's a part of a shedding process or whether it's a contamination process from the chemicals that we've been exposed to. Right, okay, so I'll leave it again. I won't play through this whole thing, but here we've got one of these microbots with a black sphere. And we've got these structural components. Similarly, we've got a black sphere with structural components. And down here, we've got a black sphere with structural components. And there's also one hiding in here and another one over here. So this is happening. This is also being sped up 400 times. So it's happening really slowly. And at normal speed, it just looks like this. You can't see anything happening. So when I sped it up the first time, it was like, whoa. Crazy. So, and every bot is coordinated. So they're all moving and they're all working or doing their thing at the same time. So it's happening slowly, it's coordinated, and it's happening at 1/200th magnification. So it's pretty crazy.
It's so crazy. I don't even know what to say. I look at it and I'm just like, what motivates What motivates our government and pharmaceutical companies to do this to us?
Money.
I mean,
Money.
and yeah, money. It's pathetic. And what motivates them to get up and say, look, this is safe and effective, but Pfizer gets up in the world
No, but
court and goes,
they could make the money without doing this.
exactly.
So this is not about the money. I believe the overall agenda has to be the transhumanist agenda. I can't see any other way around it. And I think that probably needs a separate conversation as well. But whoops. So what I wanted to point out here is that this is the structure immediately after it was formed, if you like. This is the structure 2 days later. I just wanted to compare this area here with this area here, this area here, particularly with this area here. Now, I've watched this structure for about 10 days. I've got about 200 hours of video to speed up and make into some sort of sensible thing. But these lights, or these lights, for want of a better word, come on and off. And they've come on and off for 10 days. It's just madness. So I've got an abbreviated version. So this is what happened over the first, or some of what happened over the first 48 hours. I think this is from a video that was originally about 10 hours long.
Like watching something out of the X-Files.
It is out of the X-Files.
That one went off.
Glowing lights, chips.
Yeah. Oh, it's definitely X-Files.
Yeah.
Definitely in some sort of crazy science fiction film, that's for sure. So that was this bot at the bottom here moved forward and this light came on. So what I did next, or what I've done the last week, is I've superimposed a bright field image. So this is what it looks like if I change the condensers over. And what I discovered that under each of these spherical lights is one of these black donuts inside a rectangle. Every time. There's one here, there's one here.
It looks like a camera.
Yeah.
One of our listeners says the information that he's been following says that this is weaponized and it's self-assembling nanotechnology activated by frequency. It also mobilized through chemtrails and gets into everyone's system, but this chemtrail version can be neutralized or disengaged. It's quite scary.
Yeah. I'm not sure about that information, or can't really comment. Other than the fact that I can neither confirm nor deny. But as you can see under these 4 dots, or 4, 5, 6, are again these donut structures inside the squares. I mean, how bizarre is that?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Because when I first saw these, I thought, oh, well, that's just light coming through from behind. But when you do a dark field image, it's clearly not that.
Mm.
And I've
David,
got 40 or 50 examples, and they're all exactly the same.
David, are you aware of anything whatsoever that occurs like this in nature?
No. This is not natural, Kent. There's no way it can be natural.
No, I was certain that was the answer, but it's just a point that I wanted to raise. This is completely unnatural. This is not any type of natural process. This is not any types of proteins. It's not any type of virus. It's not any type of DNA. It's nothing like that. This is absolute. Well, I'm going to give you a really technical term here. This is bullshit that this is existing in these things, and it's got to be stopped.
Do you think if do you think if more people had seen what Dr. Nixon is showing us today before they had the vaccines, they'd be more inclined to go, hell no, I'm not putting that in my body?
I think if the rest of Australia could see this and we could get ourselves on the right page, I think our politicians would be banging a tin cup against iron bars.
Well, I think that this technology brings the vaccinated people and the unvaccinated people together, because we're all on the same side against
You betcha.
the people who put the shit in the vaccines.
Dr. Nixon, have they been attempting to silence you if you've been speaking out about any of this?
Well, I'm not currently working, and I think it's quite difficult to ask to be supervised when you're having these sort of discussions. But that's fine.
Look, I think this stuff is incredible. Now, obviously, it's been used for an evil purpose, but there's always, technology is always a double-edged sword, isn't it?
Yeah.
And it's obviously impressive technology. And it's always the same. We need to work out how to use this stuff for good, but also how to control it. I think that's the key, maybe, to saving the people that have been contaminated with this, is to actually now understand how it works and how to control it.
Yes. Well, yes. I think we need to figure out how to turn it off, how to inactivate it, and then how to neutralize it, and have some sort of detox process and monitoring process. So I certainly don't think that the future is written and that this is a complete disaster. These things are soluble, even in this state, they dissolve. And we know there's a deconstruction routine. We know the body can get rid of heavy metals, it can get rid of other stuff, other problems. So what we need to be looking at the reality objectively, and we need to be talking about it and figuring out where we go next.
Have you done any testing on any substances or whatever that will break these down as you're investigating them, putting stuff on them to see them completely break down and dissipate?
We're still trying to work out, the best, most sensible approach to this. Certainly, IV vitamin C and IV chelation therapy seems to be helpful in terms of getting rid of some of the abnormalities that we're seeing in the blood. But we don't know that these things, that there is sufficient concentration of people for these things to be forming at the moment, but obviously there is the potential for that to happen. What we do know that people are experiencing micro blood clots and are in risk of further clotting episodes or sudden adult death syndrome. We do know that excess deaths in Australia have gone up by 16 or 17% in the last 12 months.
Many nurses in the oncology units that we've spoken to, both privately and also on Triple Tap, have explained to us that cancer has exploded. They're experiencing 20 times the number of patients that they usually get. 20 times, David.
Wow. I hadn't realised that it was that sort of amount.
Yeah, the nurses have from oncology units have been telling us that 20 times the amount of people, and the oncology units are certainly overflowing. It's one of their main points of congestion inside the public hospitals. Look, just to be clear, we are not saying, you're not saying anything about these structures. You're not making any bold statements or any claims about anything. You are simply sharing with us some research. We are not saying that this is what's causing anything. This is purely research about things that you've been able to observe, and a lot more research needs to be done. Now, clearly, if people wanted to share this with their loved ones, they could simply say, look, watch this video from Triple Tap, Dr. David Nixon. He's highly credentialed. And he's not making any bold or crazy claims. This is specifically what is inside the Pfizer vaccine. We're not saying it's going to, you know, cause any problems for you. You could say to people, to your family and your friends, look, we're experiencing all these problems with health in Australia. You know, but they can share this video with people without their friends and family saying that they're in some sort of conspiracy theory, because clearly these things exist inside the vaccine and it's not natural. And it's, you know, no one's ever advertised this as a way for you to have fantastic nutrition in your body. And no one's ever advertised these types of things as a way for you to be sure that you live longer. So then people could make their own personal decision based on that, couldn't they?
Yeah, I mean, if what I'm seeing here negates any opportunity for people to consent.
Yes.
Nobody's been told that this is in the vaccine, so.
Do you think they have a right to know?
Absolutely, yeah.
Dr. Nixon, do you do any blood sample work? If people wanted to come to you and say, can you take a sample of my blood? Can you show me what's going on inside my body? You know, let's say they were vaccinated. Do you do any sort of that sort of consulting work? And if you do, where can people get hold of you? Is it through your website?
Yeah, the website's not up and running yet, but it's not far away. Okay. I can't practice it all at the moment. That's fine, but I can certainly point people in the right direction.
And how would they get hold of you in order for you to point them in the right direction? Is there somewhere?
The website will be up and running within the next week. All
right, cool. All right, guys. So if you do want to get in contact with Dr. Nixon, we've just put his website up there again. Stay tuned to that, drdavidnixon.com, and you'll be able to get in contact with if you've enjoyed what you've seen tonight. So I'm sure we're definitely going to have Dr. David Nixon back on next week as well. We've got some more exciting stuff to go through with him next week as well.
Because we've got a plan to get you working again, mate. We got a plan to get you working and get you and get the people who are, you know, part of this great country of ours, get them some good health and get them some proper medical care, not just people who are afraid. And I just want to look, you and I are mates, and we've been hanging out for quite some time now. But the fact is, I just want to take my hat off to you, David. You're an absolute inspiration to me. The work that you do, the courage you have, the faith that you have, the risks that you take for no personal gain. In fact, all you've done is increase your suffering and increase the lessons that you will learn. And you do so courageously. You do so with a care for other people. To my mind, Doc, you're what a true doctor should be. You're there to heal and to help. And you are disciplined, mate. You're just an inspiration to me, and I just want to say thank you from the bottom of my heart for being the absolute quality man that you are. Thanks, Dave. I appreciate it.
Well, thanks, Kent. I mean, I think like a lot of people, I try hard, and I make mistakes, and I get up and I keep trying hard, and I think that's what we need to be doing. Yeah.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Well, guys, if you've enjoyed listening as much as what we have tonight with what Dr. David Nixon has shared with us, it's certainly a fascinating, it's an eye-opener, and I'm sure there's more to come. So please make sure we will do our best to get this video up ASAP. We've just got a couple to do now, last week and this week. We'll do our best to get those up for you. Please do share it around. There's more coming from Dr. David Nixon. Thank you so much for sharing with us, David Nixon. We truly appreciate it. And once again, thank you, Ken, and thank you, Lance, for sharing the show with us. And guys, we'll see you same time, same place next week on Triple Tap. Bye for now.
Thank you.
Guys, good night.
Good night.